Hello, I'm Ayan Bior from the Voice of America's Africa Division. Welcome to Kakuma, population more than 140,000. It's virtually a small city, but no ordinary city. It's sheltering refugees displaced by conflict. Most of them desire what you probably take for granted, like turning on the lights in your home or charging up your cell phone. We'll discuss the challenges and how the solutions are leading to self-reliance during this town hall discussion, empowering refugees, access to energy. Hello everyone, welcome to this town hall discussion. Again, my name is Ayan Bior, and I will be your moderator today. I'm a journalist at the Voice of America, and after speaking to some of you today, I realized that not everybody knows what the Voice of America is. Well, VOA is an international broadcaster. We reach 85 different countries in more than 40 languages. Our Africa division breaks news, covers the latest breaking news and analysis to keep you informed. Today, we're partnering with Chatham House's Moving Energy Initiative, which focuses on expanding access to clean energy through research that explores innovative and sustainable solutions. Now, I'm looking out into the crowd right now, and I realize that I see myself in a lot of you. I'm a former refugee. I was born in Itang refugee camp in Gambela, Ethiopia, so I know very personally the struggles that you guys may have. I also have family who are currently refugees. In fact, some of them are refugees here in Kakuma. So the stakes are high for me and my family, and the conversations are critical. I hope you leave today not only feeling informed, but also feeling inspired. Now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to the panel, beginning with Tiana Radochik. She is a senior energy advisor for the East Africa at the Moving Energy Initiative and a former renewable energy researcher who holds a master's in engineering physics. Next to her is Susan Mohammed, a resident of Kakuma who trains youth on reproductive health matters. She is a graduate of Kenyatta University, where she studied primary teacher education. Victor Ndiege is to her immediate right. He is a program manager at the Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund. He holds a master's in business administration, and he is an expert in renewable energy and climate-smart technologies. Esther Kiyonga is a sub-country administrator in Turkana West. She is a teacher at the Kenya School of Government, and among other courses, she teaches ethics, values, and integrity. Last but not least is Vasco Amisi. Vasco is an operations manager for Resilience Action International. He is the CEO of Okapi Green Energy, and he has also initiated Nuru Vocational Training Center. Welcome, everybody. Now, before we get to the panel, we're going to hear from UNHCR Head of Sub-Office, Tayar Sukru. He couldn't make today's town hall, but has a special message for you.
I would like to welcome you to this important town hall meeting about energy, how we can make it available, accessible, a clean and reliable energy to all. In Kakuma, within a 15-kilometer radius, we have 250,000 refugees and Kenyans are living. And only 5% of them have access to energy today. How can we make them access the energy in a way that it will be reliable and greener? Turkana is blessed with something which is so important, the sunlight. 223 days a year, and 7 to 8 hours a day, we are blessed with the sunlight that could generate a lot of electricity. Electricity, which is the basis of economic growth for both refugees and Kenyans. As UNHCR, we emphasize on 3 important elements. One, to enable an environment where electricity and energy can be produced. Second, to look at the more accessible energy sources, and this will include the solar, and by meaning that despite all the solar opportunities that we might have here, only 0.1% of the Turkana population use solar energy. How we can increase that? That will be our second objective. And third, maybe it's one of the most important one, is how we can build partnership with the private sector so that the transmission and distribution lines, as well as the production of electricity, will be at an affordable cost for all. Thank you very much. I welcome you one more to this very important town hall meeting today in Kakuma.
Thank you, Tayar. Now, when the sun sets on the Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, many activities come to an end because of power outages. But that is beginning to change as residents invest in solar panels. The panels have already transformed care at a health clinic in the sprawling camp, which houses more than 140,000 refugees from across East Africa. Mohammed Yusuf has the details.
1 year ago, this clinic in the Kakuma refugee camp was packed with patients and most had to wait hours to see a doctor or nurse. That's because there wasn't a constant power supply. Healthcare providers say the unreliable power supply causes vaccines to spoil and staff to stop working when they are using essential medical and diagnostic devices. Now, with solar power panels installed, there are fewer patients waiting. The clinic can provide services more hours per day and treat the sick in a few minutes.
This solar installation has improved the services for us, especially in the lab. One, we can be able to store reagents here for lab equipment to be used during the time of examination. And we are also able to sustain a cold chain for immunization for children under 5.
The Moving Energy Initiative estimates that humanitarian agencies spend 5% of annual budgets on polluting diesel fuel, over $1.2 billion a year. That makes a switch to solar energy a financial necessity. Before solar power, the outlook for students who wanted to get an education looked bleak. However, the introduction of solar power energy in Kakuma is providing opportunities to students who want to further their studies.
In the camp, there is, after primary, secondary school, there is no chance maybe to go to do higher education. But if there is internet here, and then it helps us even open door for us to do further education and have chance at least to have more skills and do so many things.
According to aid agencies, authorities have long neglected refugee camps and rural areas. But researchers say there is a benefit in investing in the local refugee economy.
But we think there's an opportunity by changing the way that we perceive refugees and displaced people. You know, these are people who are usually economically active, who want to access energy and who want to access cleaner and more sustainable forms of energy. And then there can be even more opportunities to bring that kind of energy to the local communities as well, who are often suffering similar kinds of energy access problems.
MEI research finds that 86% of Kakuma's population say doesn't have access to clean, reliable energy. But that number is starting to shrink as solar panels gain in popularity. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Kakuma, Kenya.
Thank you, Mohammed. Now, what stands out most to me in that video that we just saw is the impact solar power has had on school children. And Susan, I want to come to you directly because you moved here to Kakuma 7 years ago because you wanted to pursue your education. You've had a front row seat to see the changes that solar power has had on Kakuma. Could you speak a little bit about that?
When I came in the camp for the first time, there was not enough electricity. There was no access to electricity at all. So we could not read at night. So you could only spend your hours at the school reading. Once it gets dark, you go back and stay at home without reading until the next morning. But now since the solar, we had access to solar power, we are able to charge our phones at home, and we are able to use solar to light up our homes. And I've even witnessed people who tried cooking meals using solar. So that means solar has done a great thing, and we are looking forward to improving more and get more solar to make better our lives.
Well, thank you very much. And Tiana, you just heard how solar energy has really transformed life here, but of course, it does have its challenges. Could you talk about some of the challenges?
Solar does have its benefits, of course. We're able to, as Susan said, have an extended amount of hours that we can spend to work or study. It's a cleaner alternative than what is currently being used, but of course it does have challenges and hurdles. And a lot of these challenges actually relate to the market entry barriers. So firstly, we don't believe that a sustainable energy solution is going to rely on aid and handout to reach scale. Rather, it's going to rely on a robust market ecosystem. Now, within this ecosystem, we have various stakeholders that should have equal participation as well as collaboration between each other. For example, we have the private sector, which is able to provide these energy services at a good quality and are able to ensure after-sales services through the technicians that they're able to employ to ensure that these solutions are long-term and sustainable. But the private sector does have challenges in the sense that they are oftentimes deterred from entering these oftentimes remote and displaced settlements because they perceive it as a higher transaction cost because of its remoteness. Also, they perceive this market segment as being of higher risk because it is not certain what buying power the end users have. So there needs to be a mechanism in place which can alleviate some of these market entry barriers for the private sector in the form of, for example, incentives or subsidies. And this is where the development partners and humanitarian agencies are also able to step in ensuring that these incentives can be provided, and also leading by example in themselves, also running their camp management and energy services through solar power, which is obviously more sustainable and economic in the long term. And then another very important market player is the financial institutions, of course, because the financial institutions are needed to be able to provide financing to the private sector to access working capital and other loans to keep their businesses alive and also to scale up and reach scale to their customers. And also financing is needed for the end users as well in meeting these high upfront costs of solar, for example, which is of course perceived as a costly energy system, but in the long term it is, has very low operational costs because it doesn't require any fuel to run. Also I would like to mention that the policymakers and the planners as well do have a role to play in ensuring that this market ecosystem is conducive for everybody's participation, especially the private sectors. And we still have some way to go in alleviating these challenges and barriers that currently exist.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe we have a question from the floor. Oh, at the microphone. Yes, please, sir. Go ahead. Could you please introduce yourself, tell us your name.
My name is Echoch Bin Frances, a refugee living in Kakuma from, from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Back in DRC, Congolese used to fishing. They also used to practice what? Farming, cultivating, and even do other what? Different jobs and occupations, of which in Kakuma there is no that access that can make Congolese to live better every other word, human beings. My question is, why does the Voice of America only base on what? On electrical energy than human energy?
So I believe the question was about electrical energy and the over-focus on electrical energy. Does anyone want to comment on that? Yes. Victor.
Well, good afternoon. So the question that is bordering on why the focus on electrical energy has been with us for a very long time. And one fact that brings it home is that electrical energy is like a facilitative energy for growth and economic development. And in most cases, when you want to do your business, you need light, you need power to drive the kind of equipment that you want to use. So in most cases, it's a universal need for most people to be able to be productive, generate income. However, there are initiatives that have also focused on looking at clean cooking solutions, which is also a very important part of what the households need to be able to drive their power needs and their energy needs. So a lot of investment for the last like 15, 20 years has been on electrical energy because of the deficiency and the gaps that have been there to enable communities grow. Most importantly, if you look at various value chains that you would consider to make a community grow. It's very easy to empower communities on what they are already doing. For instance, if you are a farmer and you need a solar-powered irrigation pump to be able to produce effectively, that would be the focus of most interventions. Introducing value chains that border on clean cooking solutions in most cases would require a lot of sensitization, and in most cases, if you are looking at a customer base that is either to produce or to consume, it is more empowering to work with communities that produce on their own rather than working with communities that consume, because then it's not sustainable if you begin producing and then there's nobody else that is really supporting this process.
Right, absolutely. Tiana?
Yeah, so from the Moving Energy Initiative side, we don't only have a focus on electricity, but also on energy such as cooking fuel energy and so on. And you rightly point out that indeed, access to this energy is one thing, but the productive use of this energy is where it really creates the impact. And this is something that we want to ensure that the private sector is also on board with, in the sense that they need to tailor their energy systems and solutions to provide maximum socioeconomic benefit to their end users. So be it, for example, for water pumping, for irrigation, or other productive uses that are tailored to the communities, both refugee and host communities.
Right, absolutely. Now, Esther, whose responsibility is it to expand solar energy? Is it the humanitarians? Is it the government? You're a government official. Or is it the investors?
I think it's the responsibility of the government to supply electricity to its people. And I think if I'll get that chance, I'll mention something on electricity, connectivity to Turkana County, which is a challenge, a major challenge. Because if you look at our CIDP, 0.2% of the population or the households are connected with electricity. This is because of the poor distribution and even the challenge as far as infrastructure is concerned and the high cost. Because as a Turkana person, we are pastoralists. We do not know how to pay these bills. We just rear animals. So it's really a challenge, as much as it's a responsibility of the government to provide electricity. And it goes with the cost. Whenever you want to connect, you have to pay a certain fee, and then you get it. So to us, it's a challenge. And the only option is solar energy, which is a bill that can be paid by God. Thank you.
Now, Vasco, you're an entrepreneur and a businessman. Do you agree that it is the government's responsibility?
Yeah, I just agree with Esther, because since I came in Kakuma, solar has been like something people are denying. But with these days, people have seen important to use solars, because when you are connected with a generator, you pay a very high fee to be connected with the generator. So we need to use solar.
Victor, I just want to come back to you real quick. Is Kakuma technologically equipped to expand solar energy here?
Well, looking at the continent, and this is about the population and the age group and the dynamics around production and what energy is used for. Normally, the energy sector has to be subsidized. That's common all over. And the kind of subsidy that is being looked at now is not only commercial, like capital subsidy. It's also about how do we build the capacity of the entrepreneurs that are dealing in renewable energy products and services to be able to competitively deliver such. Now, if you look at most of the companies that are working in Kakuma today, and most of you shared this before, there's a bit of customer education that has to happen before customers really appreciate and make choices of the kind of product they need. That's number one. Number two, there's also the level to which you need after-sales services. And the most important part of the kind of after-sales services required in this sector is how do you continuously maintain and ensure that the solar system that has been distributed to you works throughout and provides you with reliable energy. So certain companies have, in most cases, resorted to building the capacity of the local communities to be able to offer technical support to the kind of customers that they supply products to. And this is not only a practice that is going on in Kenya, it's all over the world, it's all over sub-Saharan Africa that any new equipment, any proven technology, however reliable it is, must rely on after-sales service, and in most cases, technical after-sales service.
Okay.
Now, from a broader scope of things, there are a number of inadequacies in the market currently, and part of it is how do you differentiate between a quality product and a product that is just being distributed to you because you have money to buy and it will never last. That is the question that most entrepreneurs now ask themselves because they have to compete. And in this regard, normally the quickest thing to do is to ensure that the source of product that you want to distribute and sell as an entrepreneur is a certified, reliable, and more so known to the authorities that regulate importation and distribution of such products.
Okay. Before we go to one more audience question, you asked something that I also wondered, and that's what happens if a solar panel breaks? Susan, Vasco, could you guys speak to this?
When the solar breaks, it becomes a major challenge to us because most of the times when we are given solars, we are not even shown how to use it, and we are not shown how to repair when it gets a problem. So sometimes we get a booklet in the solar that you might follow to install and use the solar, but once it gets a problem, it becomes hard for you to repair it yourself. Sometimes what you can be able to do, you do. If you cannot be able to repair, and then we go and look for some people who have small skills around in the community, and then you pay them something so that they help repair for you the solar.
When a solar breaks, let me go back first on Okapi Green Energy Limited. We are planning to offer a mini grid that will be connected very few number of refugees with the power of 24/7. And I want these opportunities through USDF. They are giving me money to run the connectivity of solar. So I plan to build a mini grid that it will supply power to the refugees. I only target a very few number to be connected. And once I give you my power, you will be also connected with a Wi-Fi so that people, when they are coming from school, they can learn something at home and blah, blah, blah. So we are trying to come up with a more initiative so that we are not like behind as refugees. We should be on the page with the other people. And when we have a problem of solar, we normally talk to the different companies who provided the solars so that they can come and do replacement for the solar.
Okay, that's great. All right, audience member, will you please tell us your name?
My name is Zaki Nasir Ali. I'm a Sudanese by nationality. I wanted to ask, how can we improve the living standard of people who are not educated? How can we improve this living standard with this access to energy? Because if you look at this solar energy is really helping, but for you to maintain it is a problem because we have some people who have not gone to school and they don't know how to use the solar. So it becomes a problem. For them, maintaining them is a problem to maintain it.
So, Esther, I think that this is a great question for you. How can lives be improved through access to solar energy?
Yes, we can improve the living standards of the people through access to energy. Because for one, I know in the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, the citizens of the Republic of Kenya have the right for public participation, to access information. So they need to be sensitized first of all. They need to participate in the process, and that is the beginning of ownership and sustainability of that project. For one, I know as a pastoralist, I want to talk as a Turkana. As Turkana pastoralists, we are not used to these things. And if you look at our plan as a government, we intended to put in mini-grids. And when we are putting mini-grids in the villages, in the rural places, we need to actually engage the community, so that they understand what is it that we are bringing forward to them to improve their living standards and to embrace it above all. And then once you go from experience, once you get into the community, you've introduced the project, they will always demand for capacity building. because they want to attain, technical skills, so that once it breaks, they don't need to call somebody from Lodwar, a technical person from Kakuma, to go to a certain place like Oropoi to fix it. So we need to build their capacity and give them the technical skills so that they can readily fix it whenever it breaks.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
And before that, excuse me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, there is that concern of the role of the government in providing electricity. Of course, the government alone cannot provide development to its people. We need to work together with the development partners. If you look at our CIDP, we are not able to meet all the resources to pump development to the people of Kenya, of Turkana County. So that is why we are readily working together with the UNHCR. We are working with the development partners, the implementing partners, and even the local CBOs in order to put our plans together, harmonize our plans together to make it a reality.
Tiana, do you think that there's enough information about this issue of household pollution?
We definitely think that there is not enough information out there. Of course, awareness is rising and increasing, but it does need to be scaled up. Not only are we seeing that there is not enough awareness on the health issues, but also, for example, when it comes to cooking, and which is predominantly done with firewood, we see that firewood rations that are given out by humanitarian agencies are oftentimes not enough to meet the cooking needs of the household. So they resort to obviously going either to purchase their own firewood or going around in their immediate surroundings to look for firewood. And that does pose challenges in itself, in that it does expose people to unnecessary hostility maybe with the host communities, because there is a battle for a scarce resource already. And also this collection is done mainly by women and girls, and they are exposed also to gender-based violence in certain situations. So the awareness we definitely need to do more work on the awareness, but as I say, it is increasing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. In Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya, new solar power systems are changing people's lives and giving them a chance to make some money by providing services to other refugees. As Mohammed Yusuf explains for VOA, solar panels are the fastest growing source of renewable energy.
Jerome Busuka fled the Democratic Republic of Congo and found safety in a refugee camp in northern Kenya and a job in this barbershop. Solar power provides the electricity that makes his work and his income possible.
I like my work, but it would not be possible without electricity. And here in Kakuma, there would be no electricity without solar power.
The Moving Energy Initiative research shows that 86% of refugees in Kakuma are living with no electricity. That is changing, according to the International Energy Agency, which says the use of solar panels to generate electricity is expected to grow faster than all other renewable power technologies combined. Clean, reliable and affordable power has opened doors for many refugees, extending hours for studying and working, and providing opportunities to start businesses.
I said if I start at 12, then I buy some chargers, I start charging the phone 10 shillings. So it means most of the people will come to me, then I'll charge the phone, then I'll get that amount. That's how the business idea came into my mind, because of the power. Because I saw in the community there's no power.
Since I installed a solar system at home, I have seen a lot of difference in my family. My children can study. We don't have to go far to charge the phone and the radio. We do everything at home now.
Bbox is a UK-based off-grid power company. Through a grant from MEI, the company was set up in 2010 and has since sold 150,000 of its solar home systems. The system allows customers without access to electricity to power lights and small appliances.
As a business that is investing on solar energy, so we look at Kakuma as like a potential market, because there's no electricity grid, that's one thing, and there's not a lot of investors from the solar companies, and we have a good population of people who are in need of lightening.
Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Kakuma, Kenya.
Again, thank you, Mohammed, for that report. Now, Susan, how has self-reliance impacted young women here in Kakuma?
Self-reliance has impacted young women in Kakuma in different ways. There are some women who have tried to come up with their own personal businesses, like hairdressing salons, to actually earn their living. There are also women who have tried coming up with their own personal businesses of selling some small items to earn money. And there are also women who have focused on studies and have completed their education and are able to look for jobs and work and sustain themselves.
Thank you very much. And Esther, I'm sure that this was music to your ears, young women being empowered by energy. Could you talk a little bit about what she just said and maybe some of your plans in using solar energy here in Kakuma?
We know that Turkana County is water scarce, and the main source of water is through boreholes. Mm-hmm. And because we have so many boreholes around, during drought seasons, the water tables go down, and it becomes hard for the borehole to yield enough water for animals and domestic use. So by using the solar energy, we are going to increase the yield coming from the boreholes and have enough water to be used in the homes. I think that is how it is also improving lives of the women at home who go far to look for water.
Victor, we saw in the video that the investors saw Kakuma as a potential market, but not a lot of investors see a potential market here in Kakuma. What would you say to the critics?
More and more companies should be looking at the refugees in here as customers. And the biggest question that needs to be answered is how can we continue to provide opportunities for refugees as economic actors other than individuals that are just ready to receive subsidies and continue to live on subsidies. Looking at the skill sets that are available within this camp, you rarely find a group of teachers, a group of health practitioners, a group of business people living together and considering themselves to be able to do for their own and be self-reliant, but the only hindrance is lack of opportunities. So the only sense about market-based approach to increasing self-reliance then defeats itself if the government cannot come in to give the refugees an impression that you can contribute to the economic development and that you are part of the national economic development agenda.
Esther, before we go to the audience question, do you mind responding to that? He wants to know how the government can partner with his efforts.
Yes, I want to recognize the fact that refugees are part of our economic development. And as governments, you've seen some of the activities that we do, like installing the solar poles.
Panels. Mm-hmm.
It's evident here in Kakuma town. This is for the purpose of improving the business environment. And it also improves security of the place. Because somebody can open a shop until like 9 and to do some good business. Equally important to note that even in the refugee community, in the camps and in the settlement, if you have that, security is improved and you can do business with ease. So we cooperate together to do that.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
There's a young man that's been very patient. Could you just introduce yourself, please, before you ask your question?
Thank you. My name is Frederick Angenda. My question is around consumer awareness and knowledge development. You realize that there is a greater notion that solar power technology is a much advanced technology that would not be readily adoptable by the local population. How are we going to bridge this gap in terms of building the consumer awareness to enhance adoption of the technology? Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you very much. Does anyone want to answer that? Victor, yes, please.
If you look at places where market-based approaches have succeeded, most of these products are provided as a package. So it's not only about the solar system, it's not only about training technicians to be able to repair the systems when they break down, but most importantly, customer education. So the involvement of private sector in this case would be to package a delivery that ensures that the customers have enough information to enable them make a choice of which kind of product they need and which kind of product they will transform their livelihoods.
Thank you very much. Now, I just noticed that every question by the audience has been asked by a man, and there are women in the audience today. I want to encourage you. I know that you have questions. I know you're curious. Do not be afraid to submit your questions. Tiana, I want to come to you. Now, researchers have said that access to clean energy is a development issue. Do you agree with that?
Yes, so access to clean, reliable, and affordable energy for all by 2030 is one of the Sustainable Development Goals committed to by the international community. So in that sense, yes, it is very much a development issue, and we do have to pull together all of our collective efforts and resources in really looking at what is the best delivery mechanism in ensuring this universal energy access for all by 2030. And also, it's important in this context to note as well that in trying to reach all, we would also like to make sure that refugee settlements and displaced populations are not left out or not left behind in this promise. And that is one of the objectives that we have as the Moving Energy Initiative, is in making sure that this goal also incorporates the displaced populations.
Great. That is a really good segue into our next package. Now, one of the Sustainable Development Goals is to provide clean, reliable, and durable energy to eradicate poverty and improve the health of the population. The residents at Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya are among the 1.1 billion in need of cleaner energy to light, cook, study, and work in their homes. But the initiative is derailed by the status of those living in the camp and the lack of finance to buy the products. Once again, Mohammed Yusuf explains.
Most refugees living in Kakuma have grown up using candles or kerosene-powered lamps to light their homes. This year, some have switched to solar power and say they like the savings.
Maisha yenye penye tulikuwa tunakaa ilikuwa ni mgumu kwa sababu hatukuwa na teknolojia sahihi yenye ilikuwa, kwa sababu kitambo kidogo sisi tukiwa familia tulikuwa tunatumia ambapo lazima ununue mafuta kuweka kwa ile taa, na ukiona kwa siku.
The United Nations Global Initiative for 2030 aims to provide clean, reliable and sustainable energy to people as part of an effort to elevate poverty, improve lives and raise living standards.
The target is definitely achievable, and it has to be achieved. However, the pace that we are moving at does need to be significantly accelerated. A sustainable energy access is not going to be reliant on aid and handout, but rather on a robust market ecosystem.
So, the UN is working with the private sector, technicians, financial institutions, humanitarian agencies and governments to move toward the goal. Currently, Moving Energy Initiative research figures show over 90% of refugees living in camps worldwide have no access to electricity.
And in the case of refugees and displaced people, the humanitarian system has tended to see them as beneficiaries of aid, and that's changing. There is a need after you've been in a camp for several years. There is a need to move away from aid and towards greater self-reliance. And you know, in terms of preparing people for when they return to their countries or they settle somewhere permanently, they need to have skills. They need to have a means of generating income. They need livelihoods.
MEI research conducted in the Kakuma 1 camp shows that 1/3 of the refugees will be willing to pay for solar products.
Frequently there's this misperception that people don't have access to money, and in some cases that's true. But if we can tap into the limited resources that development partners and donor agencies have, and the money that people have in their pocket, we can help make everything more efficient, make the whole system more efficient, more competitive, so people have access to greater opportunities and greater options.
David Mano's children, who do their studying by solar-powered lamps, are living proof that alternative energy has a future in Kakuma and other places where refugees are forced to gather. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Kakuma, Kenya.
Thank you again, Mohammed. Now, Esther, your government has a development plan for the next 5 years and even through 2030. Could you talk about how you're incorporating clean energy into your plans?
We are looking forward to utilize the wind by putting what we call the windmills, so that we can be able to put them in the boreholes, as I said, because of the issues of water that it can be used for domestic use, can be used for growing crops. All that will improve the living standards of the people. Yes.
And I see a lot of head nods as you're talking, so I think people are agreeing with you. Let's go to the young woman here. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Could you just please introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Khadija Hussein from Congo, and according to the theme of today, empowering refugees to access energy, my question is, how can we get access to a source of energy that is environmental friendly and also it's economical?
Tiana, I see you're nodding your head. Would you like to answer?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The second biggest expenditure in terms of appliances is actually on energy systems. So there is already, that is an indication that there is an increasing affordability for these systems if they are provided in a manner that ensures that the financing can be done maybe in a staggered manner and not completely upfront.
Thank you very much. We have another audience question. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Console Muvunyi. I'm a Rwandese living in Kakuma refugee camp. So my question was, what can you do so that this access to the energy can be able to benefit all the refugee people living in the camp? I realized that most of the people who are using the solar, they always complain that this solar normally brings some harms to them, especially the shock.
So I'm just interested in what your thoughts are on, making sure that it is safe for the consumers, and also, is there enough education out there to just let people know what some of the warning signs are?
In many cases, companies have faced challenges because there are instances when customers have also made attempts to repair such systems on their own, and those are the cases where you realize that there is either spillage of if the people here are still using the wet batteries, and there is also the disconnection of wires that can bring minor shock. Mm-hmm. Actually, the truth is solar home systems and other solar products have never created such a major shock that can either lead to death or can maim somebody. It's a minor shock. It may be dangerous to young people and children, but it's manageable.
Vasco, your thoughts on that?
What I know for the solar, as Victor said, we normally have a very minor shock because it happened some days ago before I went to Nairobi in the hub, because I have a hub where we have a solar system giving the power to the computers. But one of the guys came and tried to disconnect the system, and then it gets burned. Mm-hmm. But we managed to put that fire down. So I know we don't have so much issues related to health or any big damage. Yeah.
All right, we have another question from the audience. Yes, sir.
I'm called Opio Obang by the name. I'm an Ethiopian by nationality from Gambela, Western Ethiopia. So my question is, most of the people, they are not in the same level. There are some people who are not have enough money to buy energy, solar light. So for example, in Colombia also, it is a new camp also which was made recently. And those people who are there, they are from the DAF some years, other colleagues are from different countries. So for your company, it is good also when you reach there in Colombia for the Colombia people to be benefit from your company also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tiana, the Moving Energy Initiative works to expand access to clean energy, which was his first question. Do you mind commenting on how that can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Moving Energy Initiative is looking generally in the humanitarian energy space. Of course, as well, Kalobe being in close proximity to Kakuma can be included in this conversation as well. And to answer your question again, it really goes back to the market-based approach that we're trying to generate. Because we feel that that is the most sustainable way in order to reach everybody at scale. So not only in Kakuma but beyond, and not only in Kenya but in many other countries where we have similar displaced settlements. So also what we're advocating for is for the humanitarian agencies to really pool efforts collectively together to help in ensuring that any delivery mechanism in terms of providing energy services is not going to distort this market-based ecosystem, because of course going back to the move away from handouts and delivering energy systems for free, it's terribly market distortive. It's not able to reach everybody equally and at scale. And oftentimes, you know, we have reports that these systems are actually not quality systems, because there's very little accountability. If they're given out for free, there is very little accountability on ensuring the long-term operation of these systems. So it all really goes back to the market-based approach and ensuring that it reaches all the displaced settlements.
Yeah, absolutely. Victor, I think that you're in 19 countries as of now. Could you talk about that expansion and what does that mean for the market?
Our expansion is also more targeted on hard-to-reach markets, and some of these are defined like the humanitarian markets, the rural markets within those countries. In Kenya, we have been active for quite some time, about 8 years. But we have realized that we have never been able to touch the humanitarian space. The reason is whenever we call on private sector companies to provide inclusive business models that can support refugees to access renewable energy products, they tend to shy away because there's a lot of free distribution of the same products that are happening in the camp. And so the level playing field in terms of seeking to have genuine customers and to distribute these products is not there. So most private sector companies would rather go to a rural place elsewhere other than come to sell in the refugee camp. Now, right now we are deliberately promoting private sector companies that have business models targeting specifically refugee camps. And in the coming 1 year, you will see a lot of financing that will be coming to Kakuma, not for individuals, not for distribution to refugees that are living in Kakuma, but to ensure that private sector companies have entered the market, they have set up, and that they are engaging with you as customers. Whatever kind of model that they will use to ensure that they reach as much impact and they reach as many customers as possible will be based on the fact that you will have to buy a product. Whether you buy it at a subsidized cost or whether you pay for it at a longer period of time, the fact will remain that you have made a decision as a refugee to buy a solar home system, and that you think that is the product that can help you grow your household. So that's the basis on which we are expanding as Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund. We are not an institution that provides like free goods and services. We are an institution that strengthens the market systems that exist. And we are aware that within Kakuma, there's already trading that are going on. Even after this forum, there are people who will walk into shops and buy whatever kind of commodities that they need. Can that translate into access to renewable energy products and services? If the choices are limited, as a development financing institution, then we ensure that the market is crowded by as many private sector companies as possible, so that you have a range of choices to make and that you can bargain and say, I do not need product X because I don't think it will help me. I'm going to buy from another company because it's available, and I can walk from my household to the buying place, to the marketplace, and come back with a product that I think will serve me. So that's the basis on which, as an institution, we are trying to promote market-based approaches.
Great, absolutely. Thank you very much. Let's go to another question from the audience, and if you could please introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Abakar Kalto. I am Sudanese, West Darfur, and I have two questions. The first one is, this discussion is the best foundation in empowering refugees to access modern energy. Now, the question is, are there upcoming projects that will enable the refugees to access the modern energy? And the second question is, if there are plans and projects, are there plans which are locally initiated in order to curb the problems in accessing the energy?
This is a really great question for Natalie.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to go back to the audience member who asked about Kalobeye. We need to realize that Kalobeye is a model. It supports socioeconomic cohesion for both refugees and host community. And UNHCR with the government and all partners are finalizing to launch the Kalobeye Integrated Socioeconomic Development Plan. That will not only cover Kalobeye as a settlement, but Turkana West as an entire sub-county. And just to go back to Kalobeye, we are thinking about ways to finance the energy sector, and one of those available funding schemes are using the results-based financing. We know GIZ and NDEV have pioneered such initiatives, and we are happy to announce that we'll be having the very first mini-grid in Kalobeye Village 1 that will cover households and also businesses, and that mini-grid is modular such that it can be expanded over time. And moving forward, we're looking to larger-scale investments, like a solar farm that would feed into the national grid and be able to provide sustainable and reliable electricity to the Turkana West as an entire population. So we are aware and we are trying to look at ways in which such grand projects can be able to come down to Kakuma, Kalobeye, and expand the economic integration in Turkana West. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to go back to the audience. Sir, please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Emmanuel. I work with NRC. My question is very short and precise. I'm seeing a lot of Kenya Power and lightning poles sprawling in the camp. What are some of the short and long-term plans to connect the refugee houses to this kind of grid? Because we might lose it out because we're talking about mini-grids, we're talking about solar, and Kenya Power and Lightning are coming up with a very big and robust plan. So where are we? Thank you.
Vasco, please.
Okay, for my side, I can just say that, you know, when Kenya Power is coming, we need to have like some competitions. And we need to come up with different innovations so that we can compete with Kenya Power. So for us, as I said earlier, that we are bringing to build a mini-grid. And once you are my customers, I will provide you with the free internet. But when you are connected with the Kenya Power, you will only use the power, but you will lose to be connected with the other connectivities.
Thank you very much.
It's good that Kenya Power is beginning to do something in the camp, but what I think needs to sink to most of us development partners and also the refugees and everybody else who is here. A marketplace is an open place where everyone comes to sell what they have. And so if Kenya Power is one of the players that is interested in coming to provide power to the refugees, then it's just part of the development scheme, just like an institution that is coming to install a mini-grid or a solar home systems company that is coming to sell to you. And from the beginning, we have been talking about what is the opportunity in having a customer decide what they want and from where they want to buy it. Kenya Power will not install households for free. For sure, we know that. And if they do, then they will do it through a subsidy that is obtained from either development financing institution. But still, households will have to pay for that service based on how they use it. So it's the opportunity that presents itself to the households in Kakuma to be able to make a decision as to whether they want to buy power from Kenya Power and Lighting Company, or they want to buy power from a mini grid that is installed here and is able to provide them with the same service, or they want to buy a solar home system, yeah, for whatever use and for flexibility of use. So it's a marketplace, and it's already happening. We cannot resist it. It's an opportunity for the customer that the market is opening up, and we need to embrace it as it comes. I think this is the best ever example that we have had in this discussion, that the market is already attractive to many players, and that even without asking them to come, they are already beginning to bring in their infrastructure, because they recognize now that you are an economic actor and that you are a customer. Make use of that opportunity and ensure that you get quality services.
Thank you.
Not all of us are rich, and for those ones who have been underserved for a long time by the government, they'll go for the solar mini grids. And on connectivity, I said that the main challenge is poor distribution and also lack of infrastructure. This infrastructure will not reach the farthest place from Kakuma. So for those ones who are people who reside in towns, they will have the electricity connectivity. But those ones who are very far from towns, they will opt to have the mini grids.
Susan, what do you hope to see for the future in the next coming years? What do you want from the government, from humanitarian agencies, from private investors, from entrepreneurs? What do you want for your future?
I actually want to see improvement, especially in the use of power. So being the most safest way of using it compared to electricity, and it's also, it costs less compared to the bills of electricity. It's very important. I want the agencies and the government to come up with the ways on how to train the refugees on how to use solar to do various things. Like cooking, they can use the solar for cooking, because firewood is becoming one of the most challenging things in Kakuma, especially for refugees. Most of the time, refugees find problems when they are going to the bush to look for firewood. Some girls are raped in the bush because of attempts to collect firewood, and other boys are beaten and chased away from the bush by the host community because of the same challenge. And since the solar can also support cooking, why can't we and the government and agencies look for ways to train these refugees on how to use, so to make use of solar energy for cooking and even lighting their homes and even doing other activities? Because one of the things that is becoming a challenge is some solars are installed in schools only, but at homes they are not there. So, and mothers are so much protective of their doctors to move at night reading, especially the students. So they only allow boys to go and read at the night, but girls are not allowed to move at night because of safety ways. So this affects ladies most of the times when they are at home and their brothers are in school reading, because maybe they could encounter many things when they are on their way to the school or maybe back, since the camp is made up of many communities, that anything can happen, raping cases can happen, or any other accidents can happen at night. So that's one of the things that's affecting mostly ladies and young women in Kakuma who are struggling with education, because there's no support, since most of the times the solars are installed in schools and in other places, but homes, we don't have solars.
Well, thank you very much. I really have appreciated this conversation, and I know that we didn't get to all of the audience questions. Well, this has been a great discussion, and I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. I want to thank the panel for sharing your thoughts today, and if it's okay, I'd like to give them a round of applause if you'd like to join me. Thank you very much. And also a warm thank you to the Moving Energy Initiative, as well as to UNHCR for helping make this town hall possible. And I'd also like to thank the residents of Kakuma Refugee Camp for opening up your homes to us today. If you want to learn more about what we discussed today, you can go to the Moving Energy website, and that is mei.chathamhouse.org. Again, thank you guys for joining us in this discussion.